Hi, this is Mash Rundown. If you enjoy movie reviews and trailer reactions, well, you're in the right place. So why not subscribe and hit the like button down below.
On this Top Tuesday, we're reviewing number 84, Daughters of the Dust. Daughters of the Dust is a 1991 independent film written, directed and produced by Julie Dash.
Daughters of the Dust follows the Gullah people who live on Alva landing on Davinci Island as they struggle to embrace the decision to migrate north.
So let's look at the good. The movie is visually very stunning. It gets a lot of praise for the cinematography, how it was put together, and yes, it definitely deserves the praise. It is a very nice movie to look at.
And the colours were very interesting because there were a lot of bright colours, especially the indigo, which is obviously the theme running throughout the movie. This movie tackles obviously a lot of difficult topics, and I think one of the biggest ones that it looks at is an issue of almost, I would say, cognitive dissonance. Because there's this real attachment to the old ways, to tradition, and not only through language and through their cultural practices, but also the land that they live on and their ancestors who are buried there. Yeah. Versus now becoming more modern, Christianity coming into play, how to navigate the old and the new and move to this more modern, advanced society, leaving the backward behind. And like, how do you navigate that bridge almost, you know, where at the moment where they almost like on the bridge, yeah. And now moving away means they're going to literally move past the bridge and leave it behind. And a lot of the characters struggle with that, and I think it plays a large role in who decides to go and who decides to stay behind.
And crossing water and crossing over is a very big theme in this movie, and there's parallels drawn early on between being forced to move over originally as slaves. They were brought over the sea, and now moving over the water again into a modern. So like the first time they were forced to bring their culture, yeah. And now they're kind of almost forced to leave their culture.
I find it very interesting in the story because towards the end you find out that, you know, this mythical story of them crossing back to Africa after being forced to come to this new place because they walked on the water, according to this story. But in the end, the elders actually acknowledged that no, you know, no one walked. You can't walk on water. They walked and drowned rather than be slaves.
Yeah.
And so I almost feel like this parallels their fear of, yes, we're going to this new place, but, you know...
Are we going to drown?
Are we going to drown? Is it going to be safe? Are we going to want to be there? There's so many unknowns.
Yeah.
And some of the characters decide to stay. It's actually quite a sad story, but I think both the old story and now they're crossing over is almost ownership of their own lives.
Yeah.
No matter how uncomfortable or scary the future may be.
And all these elements play to create this quite moving loss of culture that they've experienced. And you see throughout it, there is a loss of culture. Mm. They've got these old rituals and belief systems handed down orally that's kind of been watered down and lost through the years. And the newer generations are almost not that interested in it. Mm. It's like, yeah, you've got your old superstitions, you've got your old voodoo and spells and that, but we're going where we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
And it's sad.
I think you can see that also in some of the dialogue of the narrators, because they speak about the African sounds, not even African words. But at the same time, we see another scene later on where one of the elders is teaching the children all the African words she knows. So once again, that cognitive dissonance comes back in where part of them feels like it's African sounds, like it's almost so distant and far from them and old versus the new language that they're learning now. But they're still teaching it to their children because they want to hold on to that identity in some way. So quite a lot of conflicting emotions,
yes,
about tradition and giving up tradition and that melding into and being assimilated into other cultures. And that takes us to the bad. And I think the worst part, or the weakest part rather, of this movie for me was the level of characterization. And it didn't necessarily have to be an individualistic characterization, because I understand that the director didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with a collective characterization, but I felt like she could have done it in a way that made us feel more for the characters as a collective group. Because at the end of the day, I don't feel like I connected as well.
Yeah.
And I think part of the lack of feeling and the lack of enjoyment of the movie maybe also comes with the fact that we are from Africa, so we're very familiar with African traditions. And so a lot of the movie was just like very surface level. For us, it was like just general knowledge. It's nothing surprising, nothing that drew us in. And it wasn't like, oh, wow, that's interesting. It's like, okay, yeah, and I want more. I want you to flesh out the ancestors. I want you to go deeper into the oral traditions. I wanted more, but I think it's because we are used to what she was giving. I think it was maybe made more for people who aren't familiar, because if you're not familiar with the tradition showed in the movie, you might have been like, oh, that's interesting, I didn't know that.
And I also think, whether it was purposeful or not, it kind of speaks to the movie that it was very surface level. Because all of their traditions, all of their hand-me-downs were exactly that. They were handed down, watered down through the generations. It became very surface level for them. But just seeing a surface level thing is not enough to draw you into it. We needed more about the characters. We needed more about the group. We needed to root for them.
Yeah, I wanted to understand the collective identity at a deeper level, because what we saw was just like I said, very, like you were saying, very surface, just general knowledge about African religions, for us at least, and African traditions, not only religions, for us at least. There wasn't that much that made it really distinct as Gullah for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to differentiate between maybe our South African understanding and the Gullah tradition. And I don't feel like that distinction was made, because not all African religions and traditions are the same.
I can definitely say I do not have a deeper understanding of the Gullah people now.
I also think maybe we're a little bit more critical of this movie because it was towards the end of last year.
Yeah.
We watched It's Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection. And they tackled a lot of similar themes. And it was also the same art house style movie.
Yes.
But I feel like they did it a lot better. We got a deeper understanding of the characters as individuals and as a collective. So there was this like higher level, because we had so many layers to feel for the characters. And it was amazing. Those shots and the colors and just everything. That movie was so beautiful.
It did more than just present the themes and the ideas to us. It presented the themes and ideas within the characters and within the group of people. So it wasn't just, this is what people had to struggle with, this is their thoughts, this is the concept. It was, look at how these people struggled, experience it with them, how they struggled, and it leaves a deeper
Impact.
Yeah. You go out of that movie feeling, I understand these people, understand how hard that must have been to give up your land, to give up your culture, to struggle with that, as opposed to this one where, yes, cognitively I understand it must have been very difficult, but I didn't quite get that connection with the people.
Yeah.
And man, I feel that. I understood it, I didn't feel it.
And I think even like the ending scenes of the two movies were so similar, but the other one was just so much more impactful because Mary Twala just shows this pain and agony and anger and just everything at leaving her ancestors behind, but she had to go. It was really beautiful, and like you say, I felt for the characters. I felt with the characters. I feel like it was such a different experience. And yeah, I think that's largely why maybe we're more critical as well. Sometimes I also think that some of the scenes were forced, because it was a beautiful art house movie and some of the scenes could have been paintings. But when they shifted to those shots, I felt like, okay, this was on purpose. They wanted us to feel like it was a painting.
Yes. This became very much, okay, if we did this, if we staged it this way, it would be a good-looking scene, it would be a good-looking painting.
It would be pretty.
Where something like Barry Lyndon, which we reviewed earlier, it's almost like somebody was walking through a room, saw this organic scene happening and thought, I have to quickly paint this. So every scene there was a picture, but it wasn't a forced picture. It wasn't a, let's set this up to make it look gorgeous. And it did. It looked very nice. Barry Lyndon was organic, and this wasn't.
Yeah, it felt a lot more part of the movie, where this felt like it was done on purpose. Yeah. And I do understand that on Barry Lyndon, it was done on purpose. It just didn't feel like that while you were watching and experiencing the movie.
Yes. So overall, it's a very nice looking movie. It's like walking through a scenery and you're catching glimpses of people interacting with each other. It's lacking story. It's lacking characterization. It's lacking that feel.
Yeah. And for me as well. And that's not to say I don't think this movie was historically significant, because it has its place in history. It used different mediums throughout this movie, because they didn't use the traditional Western storytelling. I think Julie Jeffs called it the Gullah storytelling. And it was also the first feature film directed by an African-American woman, distributed theatrically. So I think it has its place in, top movies. I just don't think it was the best viewing experience, but it was historically significant for many reasons.
Like a lot of these movies, it's a significance list, not an enjoyment list.
Yeah. And I think that's what we're starting to really gather about the list that we've chosen. It's much more about significance, which is not bad, because there's a lot of things that are in other movies that we keep on picking up on now that we've started watching these movies that we've missed before. So there's a lot of reason to watch the classics and to watch the historically significant movies, because there's so many references to them because they were the first. And so it's actually been really fun. Like, I didn't love that movie, but then you see some references made in another movie. I'm like, I get that more now.
Yes.
So it is important, just for your viewing experience of other movies as well. I think in terms of rating, I gave it a 5 because it is a beautiful movie, but I just didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped, and I feel like it could have given more.
And I'm going to give it a 5 as well for the exact same reasons.
Just in terms of who will enjoy watching this movie, I think if you enjoy art-type movies and you're interested in the history of the Gullah people, you might enjoy this movie. I think otherwise, I'm not 100% sure who else will enjoy this. Yeah. But I definitely think that if you enjoyed this movie, or you're interested in this movie, you should have a look at This Is Not a Burial, It's a Resurrection. And we'll leave a link to the trailer in the description below to that, because that is an amazing movie and it tackles a lot of the same themes that this movie did. Only I feel like it did it better.
Yeah. So let us know in the comments down below. If you've seen Daughters of the Dust, what did you think of the music in it?
Yeah, we didn't touch on that, but we might comment if you guys comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.
Later.